Hello everyone, my name is Jenna and I am a gallery interpreter at the Royal Saskatchewan Museum. Like many of you, I am currently working from home, and in my downtime, my family and I have decided it is time to sort through our photos. We're at home, we have the time, why not? Now we did kind of a quick Google research to get a better idea of how we should be keeping our photos, but I also messaged Victoria, our conservator, and asked her for some tips on what would be the best way to store and preserve our photos so that they can be around for a really long time. Now, Victoria's job as our conservator for the museum is to make sure that our exhibits, just like our family photos, are here for a really long time. So not only the exhibits, but everything in our collection. First Nations, Earth Science, Life Sciences, she looks after all of it with the curators. And she especially makes sure that things like bugs and heat and water, all those things aren't going to damage our artifacts. So she has to make sure they're stored properly, that that everything's properly maintained, and that even the documentation of what the artifact is, where it was found, all that important information, even that is maintained. Because if you don't have that information for your collection, you're missing really important things for people later on when they look at it. They need to know that information as well. So that is her job. She looks after all of our collections. So the tips that Victoria gave me were for location, storage, and documentation. So for location, you want to make sure that you're storing your photos in an area where they're not going to be damaged. So things that can damage your photos are going to be things like fire or heat, water, light. Even on your fingers and hands, there are oils and things that can damage your photos. So you don't want it to be somewhere where they're going to be touched a lot. So best location to store them would be somewhere that is dry, dark, and cool. You don't want it too hot or anything. So for storage containers, you can store them in a container and or a photo album. So for a container, you want something that's going to be water resistant, because water damages, but also something like a polyethylene container is really good because it is good plastic that is water resistant and the light won't damage it as well in that container. So those are good options. For photo albums, you want something that is archival grade. So previously, our grandparents, a lot of older photos are stored in what is called magnetic or self-adhesive photo albums. So you can still find them today, but it's very common before. And they are like a cardboard that has a self-adhesive on it that can be very acidic and damaging to photos, and then a plastic that goes over top. And the plastic is not very good either. So both of those are not great. So it can cause discoloration, so it turn the photos yellow. And if you were to try to remove them, oftentimes it damages the photos when you try to remove them. So you don't want to store your photos in an album like that. So you can get archival grade photo albums that are really good, or you can get paper and then those sticky corners and store them that way. For documentation is very important for any of your collections. So at the museum, we keep a lot of documentation for all of our artifacts so that years from now, people can go back and study them, and it's not just a random piece of thing. They know all that information and it helps them more. So for your photos, you're going to want to make sure that if you know, you can put in the year, who the people are in the photo, and even maybe what event it is. So if you're putting it in like an album or something, you can generally write that in the album, but often we don't have that option. So if you can't write something up, you can write on the back of the photo, but it's generally preferred if you use something like a pencil to write, because it very lightly, so that you don't scratch or dent the photo, but also the pencil won't bleed or damage the photo in any way. So using these tips that Victoria gave me, I looked at how my family stores our photos to see what I needed to improve upon, and it's all of it. We currently store our photos in a huge cardboard box on the floor in a storage room in our basement. Thankfully, the storage room does not have the water heater in it, but it's one small thing we got going for us. So not great, lots to improve. So using those tips, I can try and figure out a better way to store things. Now is not a great time to go out looking for the best photo album or really good containers, so I'm going to use some temporary storage methods just to get myself organized so that after when everything kind of gets back to normal or new normal, I can go and get the perfect photo album or container and really get things stored how I want them. For right now, I just want to get organized because let's be real. The hardest part of going through your photos is just sitting there and reminiscing and looking at all of your memories. So I have started to go through some of my photos, and now I just need to write on the back. Some of them already have stuff written on the back, so there's not much I can do about it. And then I'm going to put them in my temporary storage method, which is a sandwich bag. So the plastic will keep them safe as long as I don't put them near heat or anything, because remember, it will melt and that will damage the photos. But as long as I'm still keeping them in a cool and dry place, keeping them in the sandwich bags for now until I can get a container, a better container, or that archival grade photo album works just fine. So I have plenty of work ahead of me sorting through all of my photos, but I hope these tips that I've given you help you guys in your own sorting adventures. As always, we miss our visitors and can't wait to see you again. In the meantime, we'll be posting virtual tours, stories, activities, and more. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and consider subscribing to content from the Royal Saskatchewan Museum. Thank you for joining us today. Bye.